Dude, so I'm trying to beat all the PlayStation 2 games ever made. That's 4,218 games. It's a lot of games. How do I beat all of them? I'd actually like to know myself, so let's get started. The next game happens to be Soldier of Fortune Gold Edition, which was actually ported over from the PC. And what's cool about this game is it has mouse and keyboard support, so I use a mouse and keyboard. I'd like to use as many peripherals for the PS2 as I can, so mouse and keyboard for this game worked great. It's a little janky, and I'll speak about this at the very end about what mouse and keyboard I use, because it's kind of hard to find mouse and keyboard to work on the PlayStation 2. Anyway, I use it, and I really do enjoy it much more than the controller. I'm just much more used to using a mouse and keyboard, and honestly it actually works better with the pacing of the game because it is a much quicker game than something like Killzone, which I played earlier on the channel. You get to really see the difference right away. So let's go ahead and start up a new game and see what we get for the difficulty options, which are surprisingly pretty nice. You got a lot of different options, even a custom version of doing this. You can look at this, you can choose what you want to have. If there's even cheats on your inventory, the toughness of the enemies, the spawns, how many times you can save, it's pretty cool. I really enjoy that they give this option to players. The game opens up with John and Hawks, who are practically married at this point. In the first line, we hear that they're military, and suddenly we go down below the subway and we see some people being shot. So they're like, okay, yeah, I guess you guys can go in. Just immediately change their minds. We don't know anything about the situation, so just, there you go. Our first goal is to kill a guy named Saber, and apparently if we do that, we've also killed the gang. They'll just all give up when he dies. This first section is pretty short though. You go through the subway and you fight a couple dudes who have terrible AI and you go on to the next area. It's a bit difficult getting used to using the mouse and keyboard in here because they do have some options selected, I'm sure, like mouse acceleration and smoothness, things that you can't turn off in the game. They just can't do it, and it's unfortunate, but honestly, at the level I'm playing, which is effortless, it's not that hard, so I get used to it pretty quick, and it actually works pretty well. As you make your way deeper into the subway, you begin dodging some subway trains, but then also riding on top of one and shooting guys from the top. I can't quite tell if we actually killed this guy Saber or not, but Hawk comes over and says, hey, we gotta stop this, we gotta do something bigger because these gang wars are beneath us, we don't fuck them. The next scene greets us to the ghoul system, which is actually kind of cool because it shows you in this cutscene that you can shoot someone's head off and it looks pretty fucking ridiculous. But the ghoul system is 26 different points on each of the enemy's bodies, and you can shoot them in those spots and they actually react to them, which is a big deal at that point. I don't know. I think it's happened in a couple games around that time, but this one was adamant that the ghoul system was great, which it's fine, it's great, but I just kind of want to shoot them in the head or the chest as quick as possible. So it's cool, and you can get them to hop around or shoot off their arms and legs, and really the best part is that you get to shoot their arms, legs, and head off. That's the most interesting part. Our next goal is to stop these dudes who stole 4 nukes right out from under someone else's nose, which means it's an early train level. That's right, we're riding on a train, and it's really a pretty short level. Other than me killing a helicopter and shooting pretty much everyone on board, which I'm not sure if is a requirement, but I reached a car near the end where I killed everyone, and sadly the train only had 1 of the 4 nukes. So now we have to escape a train that's blowing up. I think that's what we're doing, is blowing it up. And as we go to get off the train, it's just kind of ridiculous. Look at this action scene. They're trying so hard, man. Next, we find out that we're actually part of this kind of anti-terrorist group called The Shop, where there's a couple of us who do things, I guess, the government or the army or whoever won't do. So we're, those off-the-grid type guys. And we find out that each of the nukes has been scattered, so we got to find each one. So next we're going for the nuke named Queen Bee. So wonderful. But we actually get to see here at the beginning, we finally get to choose a loadout, and depending on the difficulty, you get to choose a certain number of items for each section. There's 2 sections, weapons and equipment. Weapons, obviously, whatever weapons you've unlocked, you get to see here, and the equipment you get to pick from things like armor, grenades, C4, plastic, whatever you need to get. And I thought at first this was kind of cool, but you pretty much pick up every single weapon along the way, and you can hold all of them. So this is just your initial starting equipment, and honestly, it doesn't take that long to get new good stuff, better stuff, more ammo for the stuff you already have. I don't know. I just feel a little tacked on at this point. You might as well just give me what I start with, like let me keep going, and whatever I hold on to is what I get. But this feels like, it doesn't really matter that much. At least in this difficulty. Maybe in the harder ones, it does. I begin working my way through the sewers of the next level, killing some dudes, breaking some walls, until eventually we meet some other guys who apparently also have a stake in what's going on. I don't know who they are. But it turns out that our main character has to destroy a gun while everyone does other things. So we spend a couple areas, which each has loading screens in between. Mostly I'm just killing dudes and moving forward until I get to the correct place where the gun is. I kill the dudes in that room, and then a cutscene plays. So very little happens. I do very little other than kill some dudes, which is fine. This game is fast paced and the shooting is actually kind of fun. I actually start to learn that the SMG is pretty cool. It's a very fast reload, pretty accurate, 40 rounds to a mag, and kills pretty much everyone in the game from here on out fairly quickly. We finally find the second nuke, and as we go to leave, we have to open up these doors to a helipad, which involves us pressing some buttons here and there, going down some different paths, but nothing too interesting, honestly. We arrive back at the shop where we're briefed on another mission for the third nuke, this time on a small island. So now we gotta go fight some terrorists on a small island. Sadly, the island is all snow, which means that my Speedo is just gonna have to sit in my luggage. We begin assaulting the base on this island, and we actually get a sniper rifle here, and I have it, and it just sucks, man, because there's already a lot of fog for distance type things. I mean, it's the PS2, so it can only handle so much, but the fog kind of renders the sniper rifle useless, because anything you can see with the sniper rifle can be seen with the SMG, and the SMG is faster and easier to use, and you can just continuously run with that thing. So the sniper just never turns out to be great. Eventually, the guards realize they're being shot and killed, and they're like, hey, we've got an intruder, so don't let anyone further down the complex. And the guy's like, okay. So then I flash a set of guards just for fun. We push further in and come down an elevator where we pull a perfect dark move that Joanna already did. Somehow we kill all these dudes in a room, and a cutscene plays of us blowing up something else, and then John running away towards the camera as if it's a cool action scene. Guys, quit recycling. But apparently we found the nuke because we're on to the next nuke, which is nuke number 4, and apparently Saddam Hussein's rival in Iraq is in possession of this nuke, so we have to go there and eventually stare at Saddam himself. This section is pretty straightforward as well. We just need to go through several different areas until we reach the warhead itself, then we get it on a plane, we get it out, and that's the end of the mission. Sadly, there hasn't been much variation in what you do in a mission other than blowing up some walls or shooting them and then pressing some buttons or just killing everyone in the room. Now that we have all 4 nukes, we just need to go after the people who stole them in the first place, because obviously they're not good people. We should probably stop them. And here it says that Saber is still alive, so no, I didn't kill him, but he still is part of this. At first it seemed like they thought, oh, this gang war in New York in the subway, that's beneath us. Remember earlier? Well, apparently this is actually connected. So we need to find Saber and get him to tell us where this other guy we believe is the guy who actually stole the nukes, Sergey. On our way to finding out more about Decker, we go through some more kind of bland areas with just some palette changes. Honestly, it feels very much like the same game all the way through. There's very little discerning between each of the levels other than the color and some details. Otherwise, the enemies are slightly different, and they have been adding some new weapons here and there, but nothing super significant, nothing that felt like it changed the game a lot where I thought, oh yeah, I am further in. No, it felt very much the same. Well, I guess at least the flavor changes things, just kind of where you are, which there are lots of various places in the world that you go. Although you do end back up talking to Saddam Hussein and saying, hey, Mr. Hussein, you can't kill that guy, and then just lets him go. I don't know what's happening in the scene, but then we get the information we need and the guy dies anyway. But we do finally end up getting to Decker, and he tells us about his plan to use a neutron bomb to destroy government type stuff because he doesn't like what's going on with the government. I'm not really sure. But he does take Hawk as a prisoner, and he's like, John, if you don't tell me something I don't know, I'm gonna kill Hawk. And John's like, I got nothing. So he's like, all right, boom, dead. Just like that. John is kind of sad, but mostly just wants to chase down Sergey because I guess, he's worried about this neutron bomb killing a bunch of people. So he ends up chasing him to an old castle where he goes deep underground to find the bunker where Sergey is at. And finally, we get a chance to fight him. All throughout this time, we fight pretty generic type enemies with a few big ones thrown in there with rocket launchers and special microwave beam guns. And when we get to this guy, it's pretty much just the same thing. We fight waves of enemies coming out of these 2 doors. Then we fight Sergey himself. And if you take too long, apparently the guns, these AA guns, turn and shoot you on the ship in the middle of the room. But if you don't, you can kill him pretty quickly with something like, I don't know, a flamethrower, as I do here. And at the end here, it's wonderful because this guy says, I'm gonna see your friend in hell, and John's like, say hi to him for me, which is wonderful. But then he decides to shoot the light fixture hanging up above him, or some kind of fixture hanging up above him, and it comes down and chops him in half. So, wonderful. And there you have it. This is the end of the game. We get to see the after mission screen where we go to the shop, and the guy who's running it gives you a new partner, which is a woman, which is sure to have some laughs along the way, and it'll be a man and a woman. How crazy is that, guys? So here's the end of the game, and we actually hit some credits, so this is how we beat it. We just go through the main story on whatever difficulty we want, which is cool, because this game is fun. It's much more interesting than Killzone. Yes, Killzone had probably a better story, or or at least more interesting, I guess. It had something else to it. It had some more depth. This was just, you know, kind of your generic action movie plot, and it's not terrible, but, you know, really it's just driving us along to get to the next area to shoot some more guys, because the shooting in this game is pretty fun, especially with the mouse and keyboard. Now, I said earlier I'd say something about that. During the review, I'll say something. The mouse and keyboard was pretty easy to get once I figured out what you need. You need the least amount of features on a keyboard and the least amount of features on a mouse. So you need a mouse with 3 buttons or less and the most generic keyboard you can find. The ones I found, the M100 Logitech mouse and the K120 Logitech key. Those ones work just fine. Now, I don't know if something's wrong with the mouse. It does feel a little off. I mean, I'm not allowed to set any options other than sensitivity for the mouse, and it doesn't matter what I do. I feel like there's just some issues with the software in the game, as I found out that the game actually has to come with drivers for a mouse and keyboard to support it. So if it doesn't, then you're not going to be able to do it unless you were to emulate it for some reason. I don't know. I'm not sure if you can, but this game on the PS2 hardware does run it weird. Now, the keyboard works great. The keybinds can all be changed, and that works just fine. It's only the mouse, and it may be the mouse I got, but, you know, there is a PS2 branded mouse that you can get. I'm kind of thinking I want to get one just to see if it works better, but for now, this was sufficient, and honestly, it was pretty fun. I'm not the greatest with controller FPSs anymore, but with mouse and keyboard, I'm pretty good. So this was a lot more fun, and it did make the game shorter. I spent about 6 hours, just a little less than 6 hours, beating this game, and some of that was messing around with controller and mouse and keyboard for a little bit, finding a good balance and just getting one to work. Otherwise, this game was really just a very generic feeling FPS game, but it didn't feel too bad speed and shooting wise. It was pretty fun. So if you want one that even has a customizable difficulty so that you can maybe say have fun with using the mouse and keyboard on a game that feels a little bit more challenging, you might be able to. With the options that you have at your disposal, you might be able to. And the game isn't that long. There is some deathmatch if you want to get on the non-existent servers, but this game was cool, and I do recommend it for a PS2 FPS game if you ever want to try one, especially one that allows mouse and keyboard. Thank you all for watching. Here's the guessing game. It's the guessing game, everyone. Now look at this picture Stable Diffusion has made. What game do you think it is? I'm pretty sure it's going to be obvious what genre of game it is, but which one is it? Can you guess? I really like this game. I played games similar to this on PS1. I still play games similar to it today. I have a Retroid Pocket 2 Plus, and on that system I have some of these games, and I play them. They're super fun. So I'm super excited for this next one, and it should be quicker because recently we were all sick, so it's been a little bit since I've been able to do videos. It's been so finally getting this one done feels great. So let me know what you think the game is, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.